You just decided to watch this video. Or did you? What if the feeling of making a decision comes after your brain has already started preparing for it? In 1983, neuroscientist Benjamin Libet observed something unexpected. Before people consciously reported wanting to move their hand, there was measurable neural activity already building in the brain. The awareness of choosing came later. This discovery sparked one of the longest debates in neuroscience. Not because the finding was wrong, because what it means is genuinely difficult to answer. How much of what feels like choice is actually the brain informing you of something it had already begun doing? We do not have a clean answer, but the question changes how you look at your own behavior, because most of what your brain does right now is happening without your conscious involvement. Not because something is wrong with you, because that is how brains work. Your heart rate, your breathing, the emotional weight you attach to certain words, the automatic way your body responds before your mind has caught up. None of it requires your decision. It just happens. And what happens without awareness tends to run on pattern. Think about driving a familiar route. Your conscious mind drifts completely. You think about something unrelated, and then you arrive. Your hands turn the wheel at exactly the right moment, but you are not consciously directing any of it. Your brain had automated the whole sequence. It does this constantly. It takes repeated experiences, especially ones with emotional weight, and converts them into automatic responses. Efficient, fast, largely invisible, but also running patterns you did not consciously decide to activate. And many of those patterns were formed before you had the ability to evaluate them. Research on early development consistently shows that the first years of life are a period of extraordinary neural sensitivity. Children absorb language, emotional responses, and beliefs about themselves and the world at a rate adults cannot match. And with very little conscious filtering, whatever a child experiences repeatedly in those years, especially with emotional intensity, tends to shape how the nervous system responds to similar situations later. Not because a child chose that, but because that is how learning works when the brain is young and the experiences are vivid. Neuroscientist Joseph Ledoux at NYU spent decades studying how the brain processes emotional memory. His work shows that emotional memories can activate physiological responses before conscious thought has time to evaluate the situation. You can know consciously that something is not a threat, and still feel the response of someone who believes it is. Two systems, running at different speeds, often without coordinating. Now, here is where it connects to the world you are actually living in. If behavior is often shaped by automatic patterns rooted in emotion and repetition, what happens when someone deliberately learns how to trigger those patterns at scale? Edward Bernays understood this in the early 20th century. He recognized that behavior is not primarily driven by rational argument. It is often driven by what people feel automatically: their desire for belonging, their fear of being left out, their need for identity. He did not try to change what people thought consciously. He targeted what they responded to automatically. The approach worked, because automatic systems can respond to emotional signals before rational evaluation even begins. Now, apply that understanding to systems that can learn which kinds of content are most likely to keep you watching. Modern recommendation algorithms can detect which inputs tend to trigger automatic engagement, not the things that feel genuinely good over time, often the things that are hardest to look away from in the moment. Former Facebook data scientist Frances Haugen testified in 2021 that optimizing for engagement does not mean optimizing for your well-being. It can mean finding what keeps the automatic response active. Your hand scrolls before you decide to scroll, and by the time you notice, you already have. But here is what matters most. These patterns are not fixed. Your brain changes based on what it is repeatedly exposed to and how you engage with it. This is neuroplasticity, measurable structural change in neural pathways. Research from Michael Merzenich at UCSF shows that deliberate, repeated new experiences can create and strengthen new neural pathways, while older, unused ones gradually weaken. The same mechanism that built the automatic patterns can be used to build different ones. It requires repetition, genuine emotional engagement, and a shift in environment and attention over time. Libet's research also showed something rarely mentioned. After the neural activity began preparing for an action, and before the action was executed, there appeared to be a window, a moment where something could intervene. Viktor Frankl described this from lived experience rather than a laboratory. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our freedom. Automatic patterns tend to narrow that space. Awareness can widen it. And a wider space makes more conscious choice possible. Not complete control, not the elimination of automatic responses, but the ability to sometimes notice them before they complete, to pause, to respond differently when you choose to. That is trainable. Through attention, through deliberate practice, through understanding how your own automatic systems work rather than being surprised by them repeatedly. So, here's what I want to leave you with. If you observed your own behavior over the next 24 hours, honestly, without judgment, what automatic pattern would you see most clearly? The one that activates without you deciding to activate it? The one that is there before you have time to think? Write it below. Not for me, because naming it clearly is often where the possibility of changing it actually begins.